Note: this story is from the first chapter of a novel about a boy whose family moves into a new home near a mountain. In the chapters that follow, the boy goes hiking on the mountain and meets a strange bird called a phoenix, a famous creature from mythology. Throughout the novel, the boy and the phoenix share exciting adventures together. From David and the Phoenix by Edward Ormondroyd. All the way there, David had saved this moment for himself, struggling not to peek until the proper time came. When the car finally stopped, the rest of them got out stiffly and went into the new house. But David walked slowly into the backyard with his eyes fixed on the ground. For a whole minute he stood there, not daring to look up. Then he took a deep breath, clenched his hands tightly, and lifted his head. There it was, as Dad had described it, but infinitely more grand. It swept upward from the valley floor, beautifully shaped and soaring, so tall that its misty blue peak could surely talk face to face with the stars. To David, who had never seen a mountain before, the sight was almost too much to bear. He felt so tight and shivery inside that he didn't know whether he wanted to laugh or cry or both. And the really wonderful thing about the mountain was the way it looked at him. He was certain that it was smiling at him, like an old friend who had been waiting for years to see him again. And when he closed his eyes, he seemed to hear a voice which whispered, "Come along, then, and climb." It would be so easy to go. The backyard was hedged in, with part of the hedge going right across the toes of the mountain. But there was a hole in the privet large enough to crawl through. And just beyond the hedge, the mountainside awaited him, going up and up in one smooth sweep until the green and tawny faded into hazy heights of rock. It was waiting for him. "Come and climb," it whispered, "come and climb." But there was a great deal to do first. They were going to move in to the new house. The moving van was standing out in front. The car must be unloaded. David would be needed to carry things. Regretfully, he waved his hand at the peak and whispered, "It shouldn't take long. I'll be back as soon as I can." Then he went around to the front door to see what could be done about speeding things up. Inside, everything was in confusion. Dad was pushing chairs and tables around in an aimless way. Mother was saying, "They'll all have to go out again. We forgot to put down the rug first." Aunt Amy was making short dashes between the kitchen and the dining room, muttering to herself. And Becky was roaring in her crib because it was time for her bottle. David asked, "Can I do anything?" hoping that the answer would be no. "Come here," Aunt Amy said, grabbing him by the arm. "Help me look for that ironing board." When the ironing board was finally located, Mother had something for him to do. And when he was finished with that, Dad called for his help. So the afternoon wore on, without let-up, and also without any signs of progress in their moving. When David finally got a chance to sneak out for a breathing spell, he felt his heart sink. Somehow, in all the rush and confusion, the afternoon had disappeared. Already the evening sun was throwing shadows across the side of the mountain and touching its peak with a ruddy blaze. It was too late now. He would have to wait until morning before he could climb. As he gazed up miserably at the glowing summit, he thought he saw a tiny speck soar out from it in a brief circle. Was it a bird of some sort, or just one of those dots that swim before your eyes when you stare too long at the sky? It almost seemed like the mountain was waving its hand, as if to say that it was quite all right for him to wait until morning. He felt better then, and returned more cheerfully to the moving. It was long after dark before the moving van drove away. Becky crooned happily over her bottle, and the rest of them gathered in the kitchen for a late supper of sandwiches and canned soup. But David could not eat until he had found the courage to ask one question. "May I climb the mountain tomorrow?" Aunt Amy muttered something about landslides, which were firmly fixed in her mind as the fate of people who climbed mountains. But Dad said, "I don't see why not, do you?" and looked to Mother for agreement. Mother said, "Well, be very careful," in a doubtful tone, and that was that. Number 5. The author uses a word that means without purpose or direction in the text. Underline the bracketed word in the text below that best shows this meaning. Inside, everything was in confusion. Dad was pushing chairs and tables around in an aimless way. Mother was saying, "They'll have to go out again. We forgot to put down the rug first." Aunt Amy was making short dashes between the kitchen and the dining room, muttering to herself. And Becky was roaring in her crib because it was time for her bottle. David asked, "Can I do anything?" hoping that the answer would be no. How does the author's use of the phrase, "like an old friend who had been waiting for years..." Number 6. How does the author's use of the phrase, "like an old friend who had been waiting for years to see him again," help the reader understand how David feels about the mountain? Choose 2 answers. A. He feels strongly connected to the mountain even though he's never seen it before. B. He thinks that he has been to the mountain before but just doesn't remember it. C. He realizes that he might find new friends among the people living on the mountain. D. He is very excited to climb the mountain and feels as if the mountain is welcoming him to do so. E. He misses his old friends and he hopes the mountain will give him advice. Number 7. Read the sentence from the passage. It swept upward from the valley floor, beautifully shaped and soaring, so tall that its misty blue peak could surely talk face to face with the stars. What does the phrase "talk face to face with the stars" most likely mean? A. Just like it speaks to David on the ground, the mountain possesses the extraordinary ability to communicate with the stars. B. The mountain is so tall that its peak stretches into space, almost reaching the stars light years away. C. From one's perspective on the ground, the mountain appears remarkably tall. Both the stars and the mountain's peak are beautifully shaped in the form of a human face. Number 8. Read the sentences from the passage below. When the ironing board was finally located, Mother had something for him to do. And when he was finished with that, Dad called for his help. So the afternoon wore on without let-up, and also without any signs of progress in their moving. When David finally got a chance to sneak out for a breathing spell, he felt his heart sink. Antonym is a word that means the opposite of another word. Which of the following is an antonym for let up? A. Relaxation. B. Let down. C. Continuous effort. D. Break.